Hello and welcome back to the New View. In the last episode, we talked about uh, diversity and overall just issues of minority groups and really just groups of all kind. Um, and today we have Doc. What's up, Doc?
I'm doing good. Last week.
Sweet, that's great. Um, but yeah, today's topic is gun control and overall just regulation of guns in general. Um, so the main reason why this is uh, the topic is because it's becoming relevant again. Um, a lot of people, I will say though, mostly rightists and Republicans, have become concerned with all this potential gun regulation being discussed in Congress right now. Um, and I'm pretty sure there's a bill. I forgot exactly what it's called, but I think it's like HR 127 or something along that line. Just some random numbers and letters, stuff like that. Um, and it's basically a plan to regulate guns. But yeah, just a little background on the reasoning. Um, so yeah. Anyway, let's get started. Uh, Yeah, gun control. So Doc, what would you say your position is just on gun control in general?
Um, I'm I'm not sure I've kind of arrived at a conclusion in terms of my views on it because I don't know. Like I'd probably say I lean towards you know getting guns off the streets. Really,
All right.
I'd say but um, I don't know. Like it's kind of it's kind of tough.
I mean, yeah, it is
You know?
tough. I mean, I'd say it's a tough issue for me as well. Because my views on it have changed a bit over the years, but I'd say my views are basically where they're gonna be at with guns. So I guess I'll explain my position. Uh, So to put it basically, I'm not pro-gun. I don't consider myself pro-gun. In fact, I think guns are pretty dangerous overall. And I don't see any reason why we should have guns. But at the same time, I don't support regulation of guns or really just any form of gun control whatsoever. Um, and the reason behind that is because well the government is able to have access to all sorts of weapons, but they're trying to keep them out of the hands of us. So it's essentially creating a monopoly on what types of weapons we have, where the government can only access those weapons. And if those weapons are only in the hands of the government, then that means the government is actively trying to restrict our power. So it's an inequality. Um, so I'd say, uh, overall that uh, as long as the government has guns, we should be able to have guns as well. Just so we can uh balance out the power between the government and the people. Um, and
I mean, that's what the Second Amendment was about. Really, is
basically, I mean,
defense against a tyrannical government. But uh, really, when you think about it, if if the government wanted to kind of clamp down and control the situation, they could. They have a monopoly on violence. They would just completely uh, you know put a stop to all that.
well, yeah, they do have a monopoly on violence, but at the same time, it's ultimately the people's say. Uh, I mean, the government, the the reason why it was created, it's supposed to work for the people. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself pro-government. In fact, I consider myself anti-government. I'm an anarchist, but uh, I'm just saying that's the reason why government was set up. And if there's a government that people uh consider to be a failure, then by all means, people should have the final say, and people should dismantle this government. If it's just not working for them. Uh, and if this government takes away people's guns, then that could easily lead to tyranny. Because people would have no means to defend themselves. Believe it or not, the government actually
I,
is afraid of the people. They just don't want to admit it.
they're they're afraid of people to a certain extent, but they use the divide and conquer tactic in the sense of kind of creating divisions within people.
They do
But
for sure.
I think they have the most high tech weapons. If they wanted to use it on us, they could. Like we would, even if we had like high powered rifle, like high powered weapons of like in the sense of what we have, it wouldn't even manage what they have.
Well, they could,
We
but
would that would be a,
they're not necessarily going to do that. And this especially depends on the scenario. Like for example, I'll give a scenario like a protest or a riot. As you know, there's been a lot of rioting in 2020, and there's been a little bit in 2021, but especially 2020. There's been a fuck ton of rioting from both the left and the right. So I'm not trying to single anyone out here. But in these riots, most considerably, most notably, the Black Lives Matter riots. Police have been uh, they have been using weapons against people, but it hasn't. But for the most part, they haven't really been shooting people. Actually, I can't think of one incident where anyone actually got shot during these riots. There has been a lot of tear gas use, and rubber bullets for sure. And people have been forced down with physical force, via
I mean,
pushing
technically Kyle shot somebody, so it's like somebody did get shot,
by the police.
but that was a civilian though. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, but I think they'll just try to save face in a second. Like they don't want to be captured on film, like shooting people. So it's like I think that's kind of stopping them in a sense, But they're still like beating people and
Yeah, yeah, they are.
inflicting violence.
They're
It's just a different
inflicting.
form of violence. It's not.
Yeah, yeah, they're inflicting violence for sure,
Extreme.
and it's definitely messed up. Um, uh, but yeah, I'd say these riots are proof that the government isn't necessarily going to use its full force, especially on the people within the country, because really they reserve the most. I don't know what the term is. I guess you could say full firepower for war, really. And I mean they could use full force on the people within the country, but it would conflict their interests because they'd have no people to control if they just did that. So, so what they're trying to do is find a balance in between no weaponry at all and just full blown firepower. Um, and I'd say that's sort of what's been happening with these riots. Um, so they're really not necessarily going to use their full might on the people. Which is why I'd say the using your guns to protect against the government argument is still valid.
I think they're kind of. I think they would as a last resort, but I feel like they still take advantage of psychological manipulation rather
Oh
than brute
yeah,
force. Like when that fails, then they'll use the brute force.
I just don't think they're gonna ever use brute force because simply out of
Oh,
fear for the fear of the people because
no, trust me. That's exactly like when when people kind of like get past these provisions and realize that it's more of a class thing rather than like a race thing or rather than any other sort of identity politics situation. If they realize it's about class and they kind of unite on that, then I think they would. If they see that there's going to be some sort of extreme change and they're going to be kind of left behind, then they'll use that brute force. If they first they would use the legislative force, and if that didn't work, then they would use brute force. Again, it would be the last resort situation. Not it wouldn't be like, oh, okay, like here's this little problem that might not be anything, that might end up just like fizzling out. You have to really use brute force like right away. They wouldn't do that, but if they were like, oh shit, like we're gonna be like like the powers that be are gonna be dismantled, then they're gonna, and it's gonna be a for sure thing, and it's gonna happen soon, and we know it's gonna happen. Then that's
well, first of all, race definitely is an issue. I mean, and race issues and class issues are kind of all tied together.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's definitely systemic racism, and there's definitely. I'm not like discounting that there isn't race forces at work. I'm just saying in the sense of like, like some hick in the country thinking, like, oh, like I'm different from, this black guy or whatever. It's like, you know, if they're coming from the same sort of economic background, then they're gonna have more in common than their rich counterparts.
Yeah, that's true. I
The
can agree
rich,
with that. Um, I can
that's
agree with
more what
that
I'm
for
saying.
sure. But at the same time, yeah, the government is still racist and still very noticeably racist.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm
And
not.
I
I'm
mean,
not. I'm not discounting systemic racism that
okay,
exists.
okay, for sure. Um, but yeah, classism. I mean, yeah, classism is. Yeah, I'd really say they're both tied. I mean, they're really both essentially kind of the same issue. I mean, well, they're different issues. Um, how do I explain it? It's basically what's that term? Let's see. It's basically intersectionalism. Like you brought up earlier, it's the divide and conquer tactic. They use this with both race and class. So, they're both. So they're definitely both forms of discrimination for sure. Which the government uses against us. And then uh, and then uses violence to um, keep us down really. Um, and let's see, where was I going with this? Um, I really don't think they're ever gonna really use brute force just because if they were to do that, they'd essentially two things would happen. First of all, they'd be killing off the people who they want to keep alive and control. Uh, for profit and dominance and power. Second of all, um, they would have to face the full wrath of the people. There are more of us than there are of them, so they know
I
we
mean,
can easily bring them down. I mean, I wouldn't say it'd be
I mean,
easy, but I mean, they know we can bring them down. I mean,
I
they
mean, they
know we
use
can
brute
bring them down. What?
they use brute force when like assassinating certain leaders. So I mean, like, why the fuck would they? Like, they do it like on a little tiny scale to like take out like figureheads. When they feel like something's going to be done, they take them out. Like Martin Luther King and and such. So it's like, why wouldn't they like do it? They're already doing it to their own people, technically.
Well,
In a
I'd
sense.
say I'd say the reason why is because that's more of a small scale thing. They can get away with that stuff easier, but once you start like basically um bombing or just shooting a bunch of people just on the streets, Yeah, there are going to be a lot of consequences. First of all, the death and destruction they cause. Second of all, there'd be that would that would make the revolution stronger. That'd make the people angrier. Uh, there would there would definitely be. I mean, the people would directly go and kill the politicians themselves. And uh, let's see what else. Um, buildings would get burned down. Society would basically collapse entirely if that were to happen. And the government knows they don't want that, so that's the reason why they're not using full force. I mean, they're still going to use force, but really they're trying to find that balance. Um, to
I mean, at the end of the day, it's how they frame it.
I mean, I guess.
I mean, that's how they work. They always like frame something in a. I mean, whether it works or not, I mean, it works for some people. Some people fall for like the way the media frames certain things.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
I don't fall for it at all. I know the way the media thinks at this point. They always try to put the blame on someone or something. Uh, they're basically trying to control your thoughts. And if they control your thoughts, they control the way you act. They control. They basically control who you vote for. Um, they control what you do with your life. So yeah, yeah. Basically, I've decided just to never trust the news ever again because I know it's all a bunch of bullshit.
I mean, there's a decent amount of independent uh, news outlets.
Can you give
You
an
know,
example of one that isn't, bullshit?
Secular Talk's decent.
All right.
David Pakman's pretty good. Uh, there's some other ones I'm forgetting. Kind of hard to like think on the spot, but yeah, just like what's that one called? The Report, something report. Yeah, I mean, there's a decent amount of them out there that don't fall for uh the corporate news cycle.
Yeah. News. The news is really just controlled by a few corporations, really. So what they're trying to, I mean, what they're telling you is basically what the corporatists want you to hear, and they're showing you what they want you to see. Um, same with same with the government. It's all tied into the government as well. News is basically a government propaganda machine, and people keep falling for it. They keep falling for all the fear. They keep falling for all the lies. They don't realize that they're being tricked. Except some people, except more and more people are starting to realize that they're being tricked, which I think is great.
I think people. Well, the thing with that is also that people can kind of be re-tricked. Like as much as there's like good independent news, it's also bad. Like Newsmax and One American News, like that's like bad stuff. Like, that's worse than Fox.
Really, I
Like
don't think I've.
when
Wait,
you're
I might have heard of Newsmax. I don't know about the others.
oh, oh, those are they're bad. They make Fox look like there actually some sense to them. Like
Really?
they're actually like fair and balanced. Yeah, it's bad. So I mean,
Now that sounds horrible.
it can go bad. A lot of the right have actually turned on Fox News because they feel like they're getting liberal. They're
Wow,
like they're too liberal.
that's
So they
hilarious.
always.
Because I mean, Fox really is far right at this point. I mean,
I think they
well, they've kind of
I
been.
think they
I've
try.
noticed they've kind of been cutting back a little bit. Because I mean, they were kind of like, oh, yeah, I guess maybe Trump didn't win, stuff like that.
That's that's the thing that made a lot of the right turn on Fox is that they're like, oh yeah, Biden. So,
Yeah.
and then they're like, oh okay, they turn liberal.
That's
pretty much
ridiculous.
they.
Just because they're confirming the results of an election doesn't mean they turned liberal. Like these people have gone insane. I'd say the right has gone full blown insane at this point.
I think they kind of got because it's like Trump for a lot of the right was kind of like their sort of avatar, their projection of like how they would act if they were in politics. Like they'd be like they feel like they would be like a no nonsense, like I'm gonna shoot from the hip, just say how I see it. Like that's how they kind of
Basically, yeah.
see him. So it's like they kind of say it's kind of like that doesn't counter that they lose their shit.
Yeah, for sure. They basically saw the way Trump was giving his speeches and debating. They were like, "Hey, yeah, I like a, in their words, no bullshit politician that says it like it is, shit like that." And uh, yeah, they just like how just fucking crazy and rowdy he is, and how direct his policies are. Um, and that's basically what drew the right to Trump, and they didn't realize that they were basically driving rightist politics further and further to the right. But yeah, what were you saying?
I mean, really, at the end of the day, he's like a corporate. He's a corporatist. Like he billed himself as a populist, but really he was like just corporate. And it's funny too because I've talked to like some Trump people, and they still believe like, oh yeah, he's a populist. He was like fighting against like corporations. Like he's like, have you seen how he has a lot of money? Like I don't know, I just
Yeah, he's
you need to get
definitely a
like a
corporatist.
corporate to be in politics.
I mean, he has his own corporations. I mean, like, what the fuck do you think Trump
Yeah,
casinos are? And Trump University and Trump hotels, shit like that. Like, Trump is, like, if anyone's a corporatist, it's definitely Trump.
he's part of the club.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so
Yeah,
that was actually a bit of a tangent. Because, like,
that's right.
yeah, I mean, like, it's, like, like it's fine to go on tangents and shit, but I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
like, this
Back
episode's
to
about,
the
like, gun rights and shit.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Back to the gun.
yep.
I mean, again, it's like a tricky because I always think about like certain situations. It's like let's say you have a situation where like a woman is like walking down the street alone, like in a bad neighborhood, and she's like completely defenseless. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
do you really think, like, she should have her gun taken away from her?
No, that's the thing. I don't feel like I don't want like I would want her to have as much protection as she can have. Anything that would be effective,
Well, that's good.
you know. Maybe like a stuff like I think maybe like a stun gun, but like I've seen like videos where like people are still like crazy and they can like kind of it doesn't affect them. Like they could be like on some sort of crazy drugs and it doesn't affect them. You know,
Yeah,
like PCP or something.
meth and crack, PCP, stuff like that will probably do that to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
So
your stun gun doesn't affect me. Time to smoke more crack. Shit like that.
yeah, so it's like I feel like anything like somebody like that could have to like defend themselves with and all means like hopefully like she would aim for like the legs or something. Like
Yeah, for
I
sure.
feel like
I
I feel
mean,
like not enough people like do that like I don't understand that with cops. Like why don't you like shoot their legs or like if you're gonna shoot them, like shoot them not in like vital organs.
well, the reason why is because they want to kill people. They want to hurt people. It's all about dominance, control, and just overall murder. They want people to be afraid, and they want people to die. I mean, that's just cops for you. They're just brutal and evil and tyrannical. I mean, I'd say
I
they.
think it was I think to a certain extent it's definitely like drunk on power, but I think it's a lot of it is incompetence and not being able to. high stressful situations.
I mean, yeah,
I've
that
noticed,
too,
like,
for sure.
I've seen videos where have you ever seen that one video where this one black guy and his wife were in a car, and the guy says, "Oh, I have a gun in the glove compartment, but I have a gun permit," and the guy thinks he's like going for his gun, but he was just going for his wallet, and he just like blasted.
So I never saw that video, but I did hear about it.
Yeah,
And I saw a
like if
reenactment
you
of it.
want, yeah, it's pretty horrible, but like when you see the video, you're like, he just like jumped to conclusions right away.
Yeah.
That was uncalled for.
I don't know if I can watch that. It sounds horrible from what I've heard. I mean,
It
but at the same time, maybe
it's
I should watch it just to realize how deeply bad the situation is. I mean, it's better to face issues more head on rather than just go like, "Oh yeah, that's bad." Haha.
I mean, I don't think you really it's bad, and it's definitely bad, but I think it's the video I think shed more light on like incompetence and
I'd say incompetence is an
really
understatement. I'd
not.
say police are just inherently evil and
Like,
inherently corrupt.
there are definitely evil ones. Like I can give you an example.
Still there? Hello?
Is my sound working?
Oh,
Hello?
you just cut off for a sec.
Oh, sorry. I can give an example of like a evil cop. Yeah, have you ever I can't remember uh what the place was called, but the one where some cops got called to investigate. Apparently, somebody reported like somebody had a gun in a hotel room. Like they saw through the window, like somebody with a gun, but apparently the guy just had like some sort of bug spray, like a liquid type gun, but it wasn't actually a gun. But it was reported that way,
Oh,
and he ends up the cop ends up making him get on the floor, crawling on his knees, pointing a gun at him, and telling him, "Don't move." And then he tells him, "Okay, start falling." And he keeps falling over. He said, "Don't fall over. Crawl over now." And he just like he's giving him like all these like mixed sort of orders that was just like nobody could like you could be like stone cold sober and you could be like relaxed too. Like let's say you were just like doing it, like let's say I was doing it. Like let's say I was at the end of the hallway and you were just like telling me to do these things and not even like you weren't like gonna harm me in any way. You're just like, okay, just do this thing, do this thing, do this thing. It's like I would just fuck up just because it's like impossible to like move move while you have like your hands behind your head you're on your knees and you have to like move forward, but can't also like you can't you can't move like he just kept giving him mixed messages constantly.
yeah,
And
for sure.
instead of going over to him and like cuffing him, just like being like get on the ground, like put your hands behind your head and cuffing him, he told him like crawl towards him. Like that's I feel like it's evil. Like it's like and then
Yeah,
he
for
ends up
sure.
shooting him.
That is
He ends
evil.
up killing him.
That's for sure. Just wait, he killed him?
Yeah, he's
What?
dead. The guy
Oh
he just
shit.
killed him. The guy was crying on the floor, and then he's like, he accidentally moved his hands just a little bit. He just blasted him, killed him.
Yeah, this is. I'd say that's definitely a great example about how police really only give a shit about having as much power over people as possible, and how they're just out to murder us. Um, yeah, police are fucked, man. That's just horrible just hearing about that. Well,
I
yeah,
think I wouldn't necessarily say that police are evil, but there's a rot in police departments that needs to be taken care of. I feel like there definitely needs to be a big sort of a word I'm looking for,
Uh, Reform.
like yeah, definitely like it definitely needs to be reformed in a big way. There needs to be like accountability. There needs to be sort of like people to keep them in check. Like actually, like if they commit a crime, they need to be sentenced.
I mean, I'd say reform is a good first step, but really, I'd say we just need to get rid of police completely. They're just inherently evil, inherently corrupt, inherently
I feel like
just.
if we're gonna do that, we need to first reform bad neighborhoods.
The
We
way
need
we
to
can
we
do
need to
that
fix that.
is, these neighborhoods that you're referring to, they just need more funding for resources, so they don't have to
Yeah,
resort to crimes like stealing and stuff.
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of it is like also like raising like the minimum wage and free college. These sorts of things would help those communities because they would have more money and they would be able to get a better education for free and
yeah, it would for
make it be
sure.
better.
Yeah, I do think, yeah, if people are going to get an education, it absolutely should be for free.
Also, free healthcare. I feel like I feel like therapy, mental therapy should be part of you know as well as like other things that have to do with healthcare. But I mean that should be on there. I feel like a lot of people with more like run down, more like rough neighborhoods, like they have like a lot of mental traumas and just like situations they've been through that have kind of state where they feel like they have to fight and just be vicious. So it's like
Yeah, for sure.
if they were able to get like some sort of therapy, they could mental health.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I'd say
Those things
so.
were in place. I would feel comfortable with really defending the police and getting rid of them.
Wait, so you'd rather have them defunded than just gotten rid of?
Or gotten rid of if those things were in place.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, there is a way to sort of get rid of the police and have all these things be done at the same time, but these things, all these things would be way different. So, as you know, I'm an anarchist. I mean, there is a way to have like sort of a different way of having education, except it look completely different from what it does now. Um, there is definitely a way to have, depending on how you define healthcare. I mean, there definitely be health resources, but it just wouldn't be labeled as healthcare. Um, there'd be just overall all these things um, just without currency or a state. It's entirely possible, and definitely without any police as well. I mean, I can tell you how, but I mean, like it kind of take a while to explain. I mean, like uh yeah, you both just mainly just talking about guns and stuff because that's the main topic. I mean, yeah, again, we
I
can.
mean, I,
Sorry, what was that?
I feel like this book.
Sorry, you seem to be cutting off a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Circling back, I feel like this also has to do with the gun problem because I feel like if these things
Oh
are
yeah.
in place, that also helps with the gun problem because it would cut down a lot on gun violence.
That is
Because
a good point.
it would eventually lead to the not needing police, so there wouldn't be any sort of.
That is a good point. Because if people had more just resources and just access to overall the things they need, they wouldn't need to turn to gun violence to get what they not want, get what they need by force. And also, if police were, and I'll say I'll use this in a branch term, either defunded or abolished. Then for sure, well, first of all, they wouldn't, they'd be using either less or no gun power at all. So that like you got to keep in mind that police contribute to gun violence because they fucking have guns. They're not excused from the gun violence problem at all. But yeah, so they'd have either less or no opportunity to use guns, therefore decreasing gun violence directly as well. And uh, that'd also be teaching people that it's not really that it's not normal to sell things with guns. Uh, so yeah, I do think I can agree that'd be a great way to decrease gun violence. I'd say really it's just best we abolish the police completely because they wouldn't be able to use guns because they have no jobs. So therefore, that'd be the easiest way to get rid of gun violence. Um, as well as abolishing the military as well. I mean, they have the most guns. I mean, if we just got rid of the military, there'd be a lot less gun violence. Um, and yeah, the only at that point, the only gun violence we'd have to worry about is uh, just the people having guns. Um, which
Also agree. Also, even just like getting out of like forever wars, like that would create a lot of that would create a boon in the economy. I feel like because it would be like our tax dollars wouldn't be going towards the military industrial complex. It would be like funding, like I was saying, like the healthcare thing or free college.
well,
The money would be going more towards better things.
Well, it all depends on how that's implemented. Like, so that can be implemented in quite a few ways. So if you got rid of the military, either that can go as a large tax break to people, where that would be a huge decrease in taxes, or like you said, it could be put into um, other public programs like that. Um, let's see. Um, yeah, those are those are really just the main two options. Uh, or or since there'd be no military, the government can be just dismantled overall, and currency would have no meaning. Um, which would be the option I prefer. But yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, there'd be that is true. If the military was abolished or even defunded, just let's say in half, that would definitely provide a lot of more funding for uh other public programs. Uh, like people don't realize how much money is spent on the military. Like it's ridiculous.
I always find it funny when people like going back to Fox News when Fox News it talks about universal healthcare or they talk about free college. They're like, who's gonna pay for it? Who's gonna pay for it? But they never ask that about the military industrial complex. So
Exactly.
who's gonna pay for it? Who's gonna pay for it? Like,
Who's gonna pay for the military industrial complex? Look at all these fucking high taxes that are going to the military industrial complex. I mean, I bring that up to them. Like if I was ever on this Fox shit, mostly just to mess with them, honestly. But yeah,
you gotta play like 4D chess when you're on Fox News. I've seen a couple of people,
yeah,
like a couple of leftists that do it right. Like they never go for the obvious, like stating the point obviously because they're gonna like shut their ears and just go, nah, 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 I can't hear you, nah, nah. Like they do that. You gotta kind of again like do like 4D chess. You gotta like say this, but then you gotta when you say this and they agree with it, then you gotta go like, well, you're for this. Then are you against it? Like you gotta be like, like that's
Yeah, that's true.
they're,
That is a
they're
good
they're
point.
not they are not good faith actors.
Yeah. I honestly, I gotta start talking with rightists like that because I mean, oh man, it's just ridiculous when you talk with rightists. I mean, like I usually like to directly say what my views are on issues, but I don't know. Maybe I should try playing 4D chess with them and bringing up shit
Sometimes
like
I
that.
gotta do. Sometimes I even gotta do that with leftists.
Really,
That's that's yeah.
I'm a bit curious. This is a bit off topic, but I'm curious. What kind of leftists do you get into arguments with?
Uh, very authoritarian, very like militant.
Oh, I
I
see.
appreciate where I appreciate where they're coming from, but they get into like these very pedantic sort of like on the minute like you got to do it this exact little like way, and it's like I can understand if you're like against like corporatist Democrats or you're like against like you know liberals that are for like like let's like defend these big corporations and stuff, but it's like it's not even about that. It's more like it's like when you get into like religious dogma of different religions, like there's like Catholics and Christians and they like do their things like a little bit different, but you gotta do like that little it's like it gets into
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. It's like
Oh, so it's basically so you get into a lot of leftist infighting and stuff like that.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of that. I've talked to a lot of I have a lot of different friends that I have a few communist friends. They got
Yeah, I was about to say, it
they're
seems like a lot of these people that you're referring to, they sound like communists to me. 'Cause I've noticed
yeah, yeah.
communists tend to act just the most just militant and more most authoritarian because that's
No,
literally what they are.
there's good communists. I'm not like gonna
Well,
completely back communism because
well,
there's
I'm
some
not.
decent.
Yeah, I'm not completely bashing communism either. I mean, I agree
These,
with some aspects of communism.
these,
Like, I agree with their economic views, and I agree with their social views. I mean, I don't agree with everything. I don't agree with their government views. I don't agree with a lot of their violent tactics. Hell, I don't agree with any of their violent tactics. But yeah, but yeah, I can get along with communists. I agree with. I'd say, yeah, I definitely agree with some of their views. But yeah, I've definitely gotten into uh some arguments with communists and even socialists. Really, I think socialists have gotten a bit crazy like in this past year or so. Um, Actually, one of my friends, I'm obviously not going to say who he is, but he's actually a communist. And yeah, we used to have all these interesting just debates all the time. Like we used to go to protests together. And then after that, we'd just go hiking in the mountains and just talk politics, and we'd go on and on about like all these different like just ways of how we'd solve political issues. And like we're both hard leftists. But there's me who's the anarchist who wants no government. Then there's him who wants complete government. And I mean, I will say it's pretty interesting, um, like how different leftists can
what,
be. Um,
what do you think about anarcho-communists?
well, so here's what I think about that. I'd say the term itself is actually contradictory. Because communism, communism is inherently statism. I mean, like calling someone an anarcho-communist is the same as calling an anarcho-capitalist and anarcho-Nazi, which that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Um, I mean, I disagree with the term, but I mean, I know what you mean when you say anarcho-communist, which is basically a far left anarchist. I mean, you could essentially call me an anarcho-communist, but really, I reject the label. Just because communism is, an authoritarian ideology, and I'm very against authoritarianism. I'd call myself an anarcho-syndicalist. Um, really, I just like to call myself an anarchist overall because I'd say I have many anarchist schools of thought just overall. Um, but as for what I think of them, I mean, yeah, again, you could essentially call me one, like if you agree with that label. Um, 'Cause, I mean, I am a far left anarchist, and my views align with those who you'd call anarcho communists. Um, I wouldn't call one myself because I reject the label overall.
I haven't read enough or talked to enough people to really kind of gauge my views on it, but I think it's pretty fascinating. I'm always trying to like learn about different movements. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I do like learning about different ideologies and political theory. Um, it's for sure very interesting. Like just how radically different people can be. And all sorts of ideas they want to try. It's for sure fascinating. Oh yeah, by the way, I never asked you, how would you describe yourself politically? Because to me, so far, you seem like a libertarian leaning liberal. But how would you describe
uh,
yourself?
I would say more social democrat.
Social democrat. Let's see. Would
Mm-hmm.
you say you're a democratic socialist?
Yeah, democratic social.
Okay. Okay, cool. I get what you mean then. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I agree with some aspects of democratic socialism. And I certainly agree a lot with democratic socialists. I mean, I've protested with a lot of them before. I'm not going to get
Yeah,
into specifics, for privacy reasons, but yeah.
I always feel like to a certain extent, certain political ideology should be like a temporary thing to a certain extent. You're always
Hmm.
trying to find like some better way to coexist with everybody and to
A temporary thing?
everybody.
Wait, so you're saying you're saying that you change your ideology? Uh, like, hold on. Actually, can you elaborate on
Can
that a little bit more?
you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can hear you. Hello. Oh, I think you're cutting
Okay,
out
can you
just
hear
a
me?
little bit.
No, cutting out stuff. Okay.
Yeah, can you elaborate on
It's
that a
not
little
like
more?
frequent. Yeah, it's not like a frequent thing where it's like every week I'm teaching my ideology. It's just more of like I'm always trying to search for something better to kind of I always feel like people should try and find better ways of thinking to coexist with other people and to make life better for yourself and other people.
Yeah, for sure. I can agree
So
with
it's
that.
like
Um,
I'm always trying to if I find an ideology that kind of fits that ideal better, then I will I will try and adopt those sort of views, not adopt those views, but kind of like analyze like my own views and maybe change them or try and become better.
yeah,
So
yeah, that's great. Honestly, I'd say it's definitely great to be skeptical, and I'd say question everything, including yourself. Just always question your ideology. Does it work? Is it realistic? Um, is this really how you want the world to be? How's this going to work, etc., stuff like that. And definitely compare that to other ideologies and uh, just see if that'll work out and just overall find the view that's best for you. I noticed earlier that you were questioning a bit about like anarcho communism, as you call it, which I guess for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to call it far left anarchism in general. I'd say you should look into that a bit. You seem a bit interested in it.
I am, but I feel like um, I feel like the people that have this sort of ideology. I'm not going to say all, but I've met a decent amount that they're very elitist in a way.
Elitist? Really?
Yeah,
Far left
like
anarchist
yeah,
elitist? Like in what way?
yeah.
Wait,
I
let me just
I
ask
might
first.
have.
Do you think I'm an elitist? Because I mean, I'm a far left
No,
anarchist.
you're good. I'm not
All
gonna
right,
say I'm
thanks.
not gonna say all. I'm not gonna say all, but I mean, there are some people that are kind of making me reconsider because I've met like a decent amount of good people, but like in the past I've met some people that are like yeah passed almost like a purity test,
A
and it's that
purity
kind of
test.
turned me off.
I've never heard of
Yeah,
like
like
an
it's
anarchist purity test. That sounds hilarious. That sounds like something like a Nazi
it
would
might
do.
have just been the people again like you know how you just encounter people that kind of like give something a bad taste. And it's like it's just those people that are being assholes. It's not necessarily like the ideology or
Yeah, I
the
know what you mean.
actual.
I know what you mean for sure. Because I mean, uh, I used to watch all these like cringe compilations like in 2016 of like liberals and shit, and that always turned me off from liberalism. But then I actually start to look into it, and I'm like, huh, you know what? This this isn't actually as bad as I thought. It was just some people just looked crazy, and I wasn't giving their ideology a fair chance. So I could
I,
definitely see what you mean. But
yeah.
I mean, I've really never heard of this sort of elitist test. I mean, that does sound pretty hilarious. I mean, I'll look into that. Like, if I ever find any sort of anarchist purity tests, I mean, hell, I'll even take it
It's not
myself.
even.
But like,
It's not even. I'm not like. I'm not saying in a in a literal sense. I'm just saying that's how they kind of came off. It's like
huh.
they kind of like they kind of gave like this sort of holier than thou sort of vibe, and I was just like, God, I don't know.
I see what
I
you
felt
mean.
that,
I
but
mean, I'm definitely against that. I do think it's wrong to have a holier than thou kind of um just overall view on things. And I'm definitely against elitist just attitudes and just elitism overall. I think far left anarchism should be more accepting, and I mean, in my experience, that's overall what it is. Like, I honestly do think you've been just kind of in the wrong crowd there. Um, I wouldn't say that really represents far left anarchism. Uh, I mean, yeah, I'd say you should look
I
into
have
the
a question for you.
like the
What do you?
ideology itself, and see what you think about it. But yeah, what's your question?
Okay, I was curious. What do you think about centrists?
Centrist. Oh boy, this is an interesting question. I'd say it depends on the centrist. I mean, I do find myself getting pretty angry at centrists often. Simply because they sympathize with Nazis. Just about as much as they sympathize with my ideology. I mean, like, so, and it definitely, yeah, it really depends on the centrist because there are different kinds of centrism, believe it or not. Like, there's radical centrism, there's horseshoe centrism, like, there's moderatism, stuff like that, etc. But yeah, yeah,
There's
either
centrist
centrist,
within the centrist.
yep, yep. Yeah, I'm assuming you like JRig. Do you like JRig?
Jerry,
Yeah. Do you know what JRig is?
like
Like
Jerry.
a YouTube channel. It's basically like
No. I
it's
don't know.
basically political satire that's basically shitting on centrists, and it's the most hilarious thing ever. Um, yeah, unironically, what I think of centrists, I mean, I don't want to say
I,
I don't want to say I hate them, but I do find myself getting pissed off at them. Because really, they just can't make up their goddamn mind. I mean, like, are you for Nazis or are you against Nazis? Are you gonna sympathize with Nazis, or are you gonna,
see, I,
fight them?
I feel
What's your
like
deal? Yeah.
that's one of my main problems with the left is like their hate. I feel like they hate centrists more than Nazis.
Oh no, don't get me
Actually,
wrong. I definitely hate
I
Nazis way more. I'm just saying, like, with centrists, and like this is where I try to be more sympathetic with them because I realize that they're definitely not as bad as conservatives or Nazis. And like I need to tell myself this more. Um, because really they aren't. Really my main issue with centrism, and centrists overall is well, really two things. A, they tend to sympathize with Nazis as much as leftists, and B, at the same time, their views don't really accomplish anything. I mean, centrists don't really do anything. Uh, like they just want the status quo to just be there. They don't really want any sort of
here's,
change at all.
here's the thing. I feel like anytime I see a centrist, I see more of a potential ally than like a like. I feel like a lot of the left kind of like you were saying, like they look at it more disgust. It's like I think if you inform a centrist and you kind of tell them what it's all about and like kind of like the battlefield that's going on, and because I feel like this is how they kind of get swayed by quote unquote Nazis is that they're like most of the time like centrists will get shit on by the left and like they'll be like, oh, these guys are kind of assholes, and then like the right or the Nazis swoop in and they're like super nice to them. So they're more receptive of what they're saying and they feed them their bullshit. And then they go around like, oh, well, they're not that bad. And that keeps them in that perpetual state of centrism. They're like, oh, well, they're not that bad. Because they see a little bit of what the left's saying and they're like, oh, that's fair. But then, oh, like, this quote unquote Nazi was nice to me. So, like, oh, I'm going to give them a fair chance. They seem nice. So I feel like that's like the problem. If like the left was
Yeah, I see
more
what you mean.
like if they, I'm not gonna say that it doesn't get annoying. It does get annoying. It's like oh geez, like you cringe, but you gotta like that's like a thing you just gotta deal with. Like it's like you gotta inform people and you gotta help them kind of see like the light in a way. You know what I mean? Like see like sort of injustices that are going on or like that even though they're being fed like this bullshit by the right, not to believe.
Actually, I can agree with that. I do think it is best to inform people. I mean, I really think we should inform anyone, right, left, or center, about what's going on.
Yeah, that's
We need
that
to
would
have
for
these
everyone.
topics, but I mean, at the same time, like, I'm still gonna get pissed at centrists. I mean, I'm not gonna like try to actively shit on them. I mean, except for Joe Biden, I'm gonna shit on him a fuck ton. He's the
He's not.
he's the worst
He's
centrist.
a corporate. I'm all for. Here's the thing. I'm all for shitting on corporate. I fucking hate corporate.
Well, yeah,
That
he
is
he
like
definitely is a corporatist, but corporatists can be centrist too. Um, because I mean,
corporatists are like not. Corporatists are like corporatists aren't even centrists. I would say that they're corporatists. Like they're for corporations. Like whatever for
well,
like fucking benefit like the fucking rich or the fucking people in power. They're gonna be more for like the people that have like funded their campaigns and shit. Donors. So it's like
yeah, I see what you mean.
I'm I'm all
But
I'm all against that. Like
well,
that's just
yeah, I'm against him for sure. But well, here's the thing
you're
about
not
Joe
gonna
Biden.
change.
And here's the thing about corporatists. So the reason, so there's a few reasons why I say Joe Biden is a centrist. So of course he does take money from corporatists, and he's a corporatist himself. Um, but at the same time, he does seek to regulate corporations as well. So at the same time, like he's sort of taking shit from them. Um, wait, sorry, what did I just say? Taking shit from them. By taking shit, I mean taking money from them. Uh, and basically uh, basically um, just letting them have their platform. But at the same time, he does want to regulate them. So that's where I'd say he's a centrist. In the economic sense, at least. Uh, I mean, I can go on and on about how Joe Biden's a centrist.
I wouldn't even say that. I'd say he's like.
What would you say he is then?
Like, I mean, he like, I don't think he's not taking any truths out, right? He's not going for. I don't know. I don't think he's doing little things, but it's like the little minute things that can't be overturned or changed by another administration. So
Well,
it's
yeah,
like,
that's what centrism is, doing very little to change things, because in reality you really don't want to change anything. I mean, that's what centrism is about, just overall not changing anything.
yeah, yeah, point. I just feel like I wouldn't want to put centrist on because I mean I feel for like people in general. I feel like they can kind of be led to understand things where like I feel more comfortable calling him a corporatist because he's working for those interests. He can't like sway like
I mean,
like
he's definitely a corpus for
like
sure.
the
Like,
smartest
don't get me wrong.
the smartest leftist that could articulate the ideas of what's going on. Like he knows what's going on. He just doesn't give a shit. He's working for those interests. Whereas like a centrist, like a common person, it's just like they're confused. Like they're like everything's obfuscated for them. It's more of that than
Well, at the same time, are you saying Joe Biden isn't confused? Because I mean, a lot of the time he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. I mean, like oftentimes, really, a lot of these bills are just being put on his desk, and people are just like, "Oh yeah, sign this." I mean, like Joe Biden, let's be real here. Kamala Harris is
he wrote
probably
the
doing
crime
most of the
bill,
thinking for
so
him.
he wrote the crime bill, so I think he has some inclination of what's going on.
Well, a little bit. I mean, but I'd say mostly, especially in recent years, it's just mental state has been decaying, and I'd say that's making him just overall more and more moderate because, like, overall he's becoming just more just detached from reality. Um, like just just overall, like, I mean, like he does know what he's doing to an extent, but I'd say for the most part, really he's just sort of losing it. And he's sort of just having people do all the thinking for him. And I'd say most notably Kamala Harris.
I feel like that's most presidents, to be honest. Like other people do the thinking for them, even for Trump. Like a lot of people.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that's really the case for Trump. I'd say Trump was, oh boy, let's just say he was like a different case. Because with Trump, he's done all sorts of outrageous shit, and you could obviously tell it was his doing. Uh,
I mean,
because
he has a big mouth, but I feel like he he's all show in the sense of like he's all for like self-aggrandizing. So it's like that's what he's about like making himself like it's all about the optics.
oh yeah, for
Like,
sure.
I mean, he definitely again, it's like about like these special interests of donors that like he listens to them. He's like, oh, do this, I gotta, you know, do this certain thing, do that certain
I know what you mean, but at the same time, Trump is a bit different
thing. But
because, well, keep in mind he's rich. I mean, Like he paid for his entire campaign himself, so he can kind of just do whatever he wants. Like he has a well, I mean had because thank fuck he's out of office, but he had a lot of power and money, so I'd say really Trump was probably one of the most direct presidents in history.
I don't know about that. I mean, he's like like you know, it's like a fake populist. It's not really. He's just saying things that make his face happy. Care about.
I mean, yeah, I can agree. He certainly says a lot of shit to make his
If he was directed,
base
like
happy
I'm
for
just
sure.
using all of you, that
Well,
would be direct.
well, I'd say it's kind of both. I mean, like when you when you listen to his rallies, you can obviously tell a lot of what he says is bullshit. And it's just to appeal to his I'll just say fan base because I mean basically it's a cult following. Trump is basically like a um just like a social like celebrity phenomenon. But yeah, a lot of what he's saying
Like
definitely is like just to appeal to his fan base, make him happy and shit.
like people that say that like he's racist and homophobic. I don't know if I believe that. I think I don't think he has like morals that go one way or the other.
Well,
I
I'd
think
say he's definitely
he,
racist.
he just I feel like he just takes advantage of like he doesn't have any care one way or the other.
Well,
You
I
know what I
mean,
mean?
he's not. I wouldn't say he's extremely racist, but I mean he's definitely said a lot of things that are aggressive against black people. Um, and I mean his policies have definitely hurt the black community a lot. So I mean, I definitely say he's racist.
I feel like that's more speaking of his face.
Well, I guess, but at the same time, uh, well,
Like
well, I mean,
his face was
he
like
said a fair amount of racist stuff. I don't know if you can really just say speaking of the face.
if his base was like all about like civil rights for black people and like helping against like police brutality, he would be like, oh yeah, I'm all for it. Like he would be the other way. I feel like you know what I mean. Like
Well, yeah, but that's not Trump. I mean, like Trump is very against all that. I mean, it's kind
I'm
of what
saying
makes
yes,
him Trump.
he has no. I feel like he's like an empty. He's like an empty vessel that's just like doing whatever advantageous for him at the time.
I'd say it's kind of. I mean, I can agree. Like, it's like he definitely only cares about himself. He just wants power, money, and glory. All that. I can agree with that for sure.
Yep.
But at the same time, I would say he's racist. I mean, and
I'm sure
racism
there's a
does
bit
get
of,
you
I'm
more
sure there's a,
power, glory, and really money overall.
I'm sure there's a bit of like actual racism. It's like I mean you gotta understand like he grew up wealthy.
Yeah.
He probably has like a lot of rich, like super rich, wealthy white people tend to have like very narrow view of minorities.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And
Oh shoot.
they're probably
By the way, I just noticed something. We haven't talked about guns in quite a while. Uh, yeah, you want to talk about guns again?
gonna,
Because I actually do have a question. I do have another question for you about guns. So, um, do you think the government should regulate guns?
I don't know if I trust the government with that. In a way, it's like
That's a good response.
it's like yeah, I don't know. That's a again, it's like tough because
It's
like I
definitely a tough
different
question.
situation.
Because
I was,
so my position, I'm like you already know my position, but I'm just gonna briefly review it. But yeah, basically, I do think guns are dangerous in people really shouldn't be having them, and we shouldn't use guns at all. And that goes for people and the military and police. Um, but at the same time, I really do think people should have guns to protect themselves against the government. But yeah, what would you say the best course of going about this is? Like, do you think there should be
I don't
some
know.
form of regulation, or do you think it should really just be up to the people?
Well, see, with the whole thing about the government dealing with the guns, also you have you have a culture like America is a culture built around guns. Like it's
Basically,
kind of
yeah,
like we
definitely.
kind of fetishize them in a certain way. It's like we got like, hunting or for
Ugh, yeah. America's fucking
you know
obsessed with hunting. It's disgusting. Yeah, America's
there's hunt.
obsessed with guns. It's like really crazy.
Yeah. So it's like you're gonna have a pushback against that. From, we already saw what the right could do if they feel like they're treated unjustly.
Yeah,
Even though I don't think they're treated unjustly.
with the whole fucking
There's,
Capitol riot
yeah,
on the
yeah,
6th. Yeah, I
yeah. So
actually
it's
made an
like,
episode about that. Yeah, that Capitol riot was that riot at the Capitol was fucked. But yeah,
yeah, I mean,
go on. What were you saying with that?
yeah. It's just there would definitely be pushback. I feel like if the government did that,
Yeah, for
people,
sure.
I think it would be very difficult because they wouldn't. I don't feel like the individuals on the right would listen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that
You
I
have,
can agree. That is definitely a main concern that I do think should be brought up. I mean, I can admire how the left wants there to be less gun violence. I can definitely agree with that. But at the same time, you got to realize if you're gonna pass uh some sort of a law requiring people to have their guns confiscated from them, that's really not going to go all that well so easily, especially with the right. Like, they're obsessed with their guns. Like, there are all these slogans that are like, "Oh, you want to take my fucking guns away from me? Come and get it, pussy." And then they show their fucking guns like they're some sort of a badass and shit. Yeah, they're dead ass serious about this shit. They're gonna fight and they're literally gonna use their guns to kill all these people trying to confiscate their guns. So, that's just really gonna bring more gun violence, really. Um and it could basically turn into a civil war. Like, I mean, if these people try to, bind together and form their own sort of military of some type.
really what there needs to be like charismatic individuals that they can relate with, they can see themselves in. That is that is opposed to that is opposed to guns that can kind of talk to them on their terms. And pretty much like
Yeah, I see
in
what
a
you mean.
weird way, like a good Trump.
I mean,
Like
that'd be
like a
hilarious. Like, if that was to ever happen. Oh, guys. Guns, like, they're not really cool, guys. I mean, really, like, the right should really just be about economics. I mean, guns. We really need to have so many guns. Like, come on, folks. Like, that'd be pretty hilarious, honestly. But I see what you mean.
yeah.
I don't know if it's very realistic, but I mean, but then again, Trump, like, we never thought someone like Trump would come along. So, it might be possible. Like, fucking anything can happen in politics. So it's definitely possible.
I don't
I
I
can
don't
see
know if
people.
like
Yeah,
like the whole like blackout burning thing kind of like made me a little. You we're gonna need like a you can't have like a wishy washy person like on the left. I feel like
yeah,
I
I can
it
agree
was
with that.
awesome, but I don't. I wish it was more like Nina Turner. I hope Nina Turner runs because Nina Turner's amazing, but Bernie like his heart's in the right place, but he just was willing to put up the fight.
yeah, he's Bernie Sanders. Like, I mean, I agree with a fair amount of what he says, but yeah, he really is a pushover. I think that's kind of, I wouldn't say entirely, because we can go into the whole DNC sort of thing, but I'd say that's at least partially a reason why he didn't get the nomination. Bernie is really just a pushover. Like,
He's a good no. He's a I don't like want to bag on him because he's like a good guy. It's just like the climate.
I do think he's a nice guy.
If,
I do think he's a
if,
good guy for sure.
if we were in a climate of good faith actors and it was like a fair race, he would do great.
Oh
But
yeah, for
we're
sure.
not.
He'd be president right now if that
We're
were true.
living in a in a vicious cycle that needs to be broken.
Yeah, for
And
sure. We
you
just
know,
need to get rid of
you
the
know,
toxic culture of, oh, whoever speaks the loudest and most aggressively wins, and just all this corporate corruption, etc. We just need to get rid of this horrible culture if we want to, you know, finally, get
living
to
out
a
of
better
politics.
place. Yeah.
Like that's like one of the I feel like one of the worst things about capitalism is that sort of like the money in
Oh
politics
yeah,
and
it's
like the
so
way they.
fucked. It's so fucked how you basically have to be rich to get into politics. It's so fucked, and it's classist as
I
shit.
mean, uh, you can be lower income, but like you're funded. That's like the thing. Like once
Yeah,
you get funded by certain individuals, you're indebted to them. Like they're the they kind of can be masters. So
yeah,
it's like
that is a problem. Definitely a lot of corporate, I guess, puppeting. You can call the term. Yeah, it's pretty fucked.
yeah,
It's really just what corruption is. I mean, like if you have all these, corporatists just trying to say, "Oh yeah, you have to have all these policies serving me," instead of really just the people. That that's literally what corruption is in a nutshell. Uh, and yeah, that's really what America is. Like, I mean, it's just corporatists serving the government and the government serving the corporatists. Like, it's really just two
speaking of
sides of the same coin, I'd say.
I don't mean to go off on a tangent here. So kind of going back to Bernie Sanders. Have you seen that article about that teacher that was saying that I think she was saying that her and her students were observing how Bernie Sanders was a misogynist because he was wearing gloves and a jacket.
What? How does that make him a misogynist?
Apparently, because he was showing his privilege, he was showing his privilege by not wearing a nicer clothes.
Oh, okay. Uh,
It
that
was
makes
weird. Like
literal no sense at all.
she
In
got
fact, the
she got
opposite
she got
would
blasted.
apply. Um,
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people blast her, rightfully so.
yeah,
Like, what are you?
like that sounds like a total fucking joke. Like, I mean, yeah, that person really should be blasted because I mean, like you could argue that uh that privilege would belong to women really because I mean uh like women can get like away with wearing all kinds of stuff, but like if it's at a formal event, like and if you're like a man, you're expected to like wear a suit, like, and that's basically it. But yeah, um, yeah,
I feel like
that's pretty fucked.
I feel like
Yeah,
people always bring that up about like, oh, you gotta like. I think it goes both ways. Like I think women have to like reach a certain standard, but I also feel like men have to reach a certain standard too. It's not like it's just in different ways.
I'd say
But
it's
it's
more
like
I'd say it's more stacked against men though. Um, I mean, like I mean, it's like right now it's socially unacceptable. Like for example, for men to wear skirts. but like women can wear like skirts or like
Okay.
pantsuits. Like
Mm.
like women just have a lot more options, really. Doesn't really apply for men, which I think is the problem. But but yeah, yeah, I can agree. Like that person definitely needs to be blasted for that. Like that just sounds like a fucking joke. Like goddamn.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Like, you're
Like I mean,
not helping
like
either.
it's just fucking mittens. Like someone literally just fucking
Funny
sewed
thing,
them for him. Like of course
saying
he's gonna wear them.
you're saying misogynist and like fucking like male privilege, and the mittens were actually made by a lesbian woman to make up
Exactly.
for charity.
Exactly.
Hilarious. Like wow,
Like what the
that's
fuck?
like I think him wearing the mittens actually helped like her sell more. So it's like it actually helped like with the charity that she was selling it for.
Oh yeah, it did. Yeah, it's like it's crazy how like this whole mittens thing went viral. Like it's more viral than the inauguration itself. Like it's like I remember like watching it live myself. Like I remember seeing him just wearing those mittens and he looked kind of pissed off. Like I didn't think much of it at the time. I was just like, oh hey, what the shit? Oh look, there's Bernie Sanders. He looks
I
kind of
think he was
pissed
just
off
cold.
though. Um,
I think he was
like
just cold.
how about you? What were you thinking of it? Like were you watching it? Were you watching the inauguration live when it happened?
No, I didn't watch it.
Oh okay, well that's fair. But yeah, he was. Yeah, he was definitely cold. I mean, like he definitely looks pissed off, but I mean, like like at the same time, like yeah, yeah, you're right. He was probably just cold because he was all he was all bundled up. He got the mittens, of course. He has his arms and legs crossed and stuff. He's just trying to stay warm for sure.
He was mad because his Bernie Bros didn't have his back.
Yeah,
You
true.
know?
Oh man. Yeah, like I
Yeah,
mean, I'm not like super obsessed with like that meme because really I hate memes and shit. But like I will admit, like that photo, I will admit it's pretty funny. Um, I mean, I can't really
maybe.
even say it was a photo because I mean it was just like it was an entire inauguration. Like I mean, I remember just watching the whole thing. And then just seeing Bernie there, I was a bit surprised I saw him there. But at the same time, I shouldn't.
Wait,
Like, yeah.
wait. So you hate memes in general?
Yeah, I don't like them, man. Like I just don't think they're funny.
There's like so many different types of memes.
All
Like
right, how about you send me some memes you think I'd like, and then maybe I'll give you some thoughts. But I mean, for now, I'm just really not into
yeah,
them. Like I mean, I prefer jokes. Like I really just prefer jokes over memes. Memes I think can just kind of get they 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 just seem to progress into just pure stupidity, really.
I mean deep fried memes are stupid.
Yeah, for sure.
Like or like the one where like you're watching a video and they do like a loud noise and it like hurts your ears and they hate
Yeah,
that.
stuff like that. And like honestly, I think stuff like Doge is stupid, and like stuff like Baba Booey. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? And like, what's with Doge? Like, I
Bubble
mean, like it's just a dog. What? Why is that so fucking funny? Yeah,
because he's a
Baba
little
Booey. Like,
doge.
like I don't fucking get it, man. Like, what's so funny about just saying Baba Booey? Like, there's no context. There's no punchline. There's nothing. What's so funny about
That's
that?
ac- that's actually from Howard Stern.
I don't even
I
know
didn't
what
even
that
know that was
is.
a meme.
Oh wait, Howard
I didn't
Stern.
even know
Isn't
that
that
was
the guy from like? Isn't he like that fucking uh, guy from American Idol or something? Some shit.
a
I don't
He's
know.
probably done a show like that. He was like a shock jock back in the day. He still does radio, but now he's more like he's more like Hollywood, I guess. Like he's not as like not trying to be shocking. He's kind of two faced and kind of stupid, but he has a producer called Terry Belafonte, I think, and his nickname is Baba Booey. So like anytime like a caller, they go Baba Booey, Baba Booey, like that. So
Oh,
that's where that's from.
so that's where that came from. I still think it's stupid though,
I,
because people just say it without any context or any meaning whatsoever. They just say Baba Booey, and I'm just like, okay, is there a reason why you
I
said
didn't
that?
even know. I didn't even know that made a comeback. Like that's kind of old, to be honest.
Yeah,
Weird that it
it
made
did make a comeback. It was huge in 2020. Like everyone was saying it. Like whenever like I would like be at a get together or like a party or just some sort of gathering or something with people, like they would always just go like Baba Booey. I'm just like, okay, all right.
That
But
should have
like
been that should have
everyone
been
was
from the
saying it.
night.
Yeah,
That should have
I
been
know
from
it's
the
from the
'90s.
yeah, I know it's from the '90s, but like it made a huge comeback in 2020. Like it was crazy how huge it was. I'm
We need
surprised you
to just
missed
do a
that, honestly.
podcast deconstructing Baba Booey.
Yeah, like holy fuck, like yeah, like we're supposed to be talking about guns and we're talking about like fucking Baba Booey and fucking memes and shit like that.
We just need to give Baba Booey all the time.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, oh yeah, back to guns by the way. So I do think your position on guns is pretty interesting. And I'd say for the most part I agree with it. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's see. I guess I have one more question. But this podcast is getting a bit long. You cool if we kind of just wrap this up a little bit?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
All right, sweet. But yeah. Let's see. What was my question? Uh. Oh yeah. So do you think that there can be a future without guns, without having to use government force? Like, do you think there can you see a future where people just sort of voluntarily give up their guns? It doesn't necessarily have to be a near future, but like, can you envision a future like that where people just decide, hey, why do we even need these things?
You're talking about like a utopian society here.
Well, it depends on how you define utopia. I mean, I'd say this doesn't necessarily have to be utopian because utopia would imply perfection, and absolutely no problems whatsoever. I'm not saying that's necessarily the case. Um, not necessarily wouldn't be the case, but um, yeah. Would you say that's possible, or would you say, like you brought up earlier, that it'd be purely utopian?
Uh, it would have to be like almost. There's a lot of factors to kind of take in. That there, I think there would have to be like in terms of like the culture of guns. I think that would have to like kind of lose interest with the public. That would have to be one thing that would have to happen.
Yeah, sure, I can agree with that.
The police would have to, the military would have to also. You don't want the government to have to either.
Yeah, true.
Uh, uh, yeah, I mean, like that's pretty much like literally have to like lose our love of
Yeah. Honestly, I can see a future where that's possible. I mean, like people are.
mode. It's possible, but I feel like we're a long ways from that, and it's like we have like a lot of staunch people that want guns around for various reasons.
I'd
Either
say the
culturally,
I'd say the first step is to just sort of relieve tensions. Like as you know, tensions are still pretty high right now. Um, I'd say we need to just decrease tensions. before we can expect people to uh, just sort of steer away from guns.
I feel like again, it's going back to like you know raising minimum wage, free universal health care, free like all these things. Like I feel like those would help a lot with these tensions because these tensions
They
are
would.
caused by these things.
Yeah, they.
Not having enough money, not having adequate health care, or not being psychologically, are dealing with like psychological problems.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. People need access to resources. That can definitely solve the problem with gun violence for sure.
I think through access to certain resources definitely would really touch it. So that I would say that would be my attention of people.
Yeah, for sure. I can agree with that. I have been noticing tensions have been lowering a little bit ever since January, which I think is great. And honestly, I can see a bright future where tensions continue to lower. Um, I do think
I don't
I
know
do
about
think
that.
we can make our planet a great place to live on.
I don't think I'm that optimistic at the moment.
Well, all right.
Again, maybe if Bernie Sanders was in office, I'd probably feel like more optimistic, but or somebody like somebody that wasn't a corporatist, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely gonna take a lot of work. Um, and we definitely need to help people just wake up more. But I'd say, honestly, I'd say we got this.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm
Um.
definitely hopeful.
Yeah, I'm definitely hopeful as well. I definitely and yeah, I trust people. I think that I really do think that we can create a great future. I hope you're willing to help try to create a great future. 'Cause I am.
I mean, like I was saying before, like I'm trying to turn centrist,
Oh boy.
so I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part and trying to help. Get more allies, get people to see that there's better ways to handle situations like sitting on the fence.
Well, yeah, I will say that's not a bad idea. So yeah, keep at it for sure. Um. Uh. But yeah, you wanna wrap it up about now? I'd say that was a pretty good podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. Yeah. Again, I'd say this was a great episode. Um. Yeah, it was great having you on.
Yeah, it's fun talk.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Um. You're. But yeah, you're welcome to come on a future episode if you want. It's up to you. But yeah. Um. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
basically it. Um. Yeah. See you guys. Uh. New episodes every Tuesday. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. So you may notice that the upload date is Wednesday instead of Tuesday. Um, the reason for that is well, I'm not gonna go too in depth with it, but basically, yeah, there was some complications just with guest scheduling. I'm not gonna go into specifics, but basically, yeah. Yeah, anyway, yeah, expect a new episode on Tuesday and really just every Tuesday. Yeah, sorry it's a day late, but stuff like this is gonna happen. What can you do? But yeah, see you guys.